Hiro Shishigami needs your clothes, your boots, and your motorcycle, because he goes all Terminator on a Japanese police force. Gee, who would have thought? A SWAT team came into the house of the only two people that Hiro Shishigami cares about, they open fire, and he decides to go on a massive killing spree. This episode was just a powder keg waiting to go off. The way that the last episode ended, there was absolutely no way that this episode was going to end like with a fairy tale ending. No, this one got pretty freaking dark as Hiro Shishigami has basically declared war on all of Japan. Or at least the Japanese police force itself. This week's episode was chock full of jaw-dropping moments, and I also love that it broke the mold a little bit by focusing on another character aside from Ichiro and Hiro. We actually got to spend a little more time with Ichiro's daughter Mari, who is an aspiring manga artist, but for all of the wrong reasons. Basically, she's just trying to one-up her neighbor Oda, the presumed son of the creator of One Piece. I can't wait for more One Piece references in this series, because they completely clash with the super realistic violence of this world. Did I say realistic? There are cyborg humans in this series, and we get to see a lot of the crazy things that they can do in this episode right here. So let's not waste any more time. Let's talk about some of the key elements of this episode. Before we get to the massacre and all the stuff with Hiro Shishigami, let's talk about Mari. Mari Inuyashiki, who's the daughter of Ichiro and one of the most popular girls in school. She seems to have a massive chip on her shoulder. She doesn't seem to get along with her father anymore. She wants to one-up her neighbor and be super rich and popular just because that's just what you want to do. She is doing terrible in school, and she also finds out that her father is half man, half robot. That actually does happen in this episode. She actually ends up following her father, who's hanging out with Ando at the time, which he finds very strange, and even speculates, could this be like some sort of like illegitimate child, or maybe even something a little creepier than that? You can use your own imagination. But she actually learns that Ichiro has been going to all of these hospitals and curing all of these people who have these terminal diseases. She puts one and one together. She sees him take off like a giant freaking Astro Boy, and she realizes, holy crap, my father's not quite normal. And that leads to a lot of their confrontations later on in the episode being a lot more shocking, as she quite really doesn't know how to process any of this. And really, who would? How would you be able to confront something about this? However, she is reassured that at least her father is still something of a compassionate human, as he actually is managing to support her in that she wants to become a manga artist. Something that her mother completely opposes, because let's face it, not everybody's going to become the most famous manga artist in Japan. Alright? Just not gonna happen. So, that part of the episode is pretty interesting. I like that they're focusing on her character, and it's very obvious that eventually she's going to get tangled up into this confrontation between both Ichiro and Hiro. And speaking of Hiro, he's kind of having another bad week, as when that SWAT team comes in, they pretty much just start opening fire left and right. Like, they shoot the grandma, they shoot Pube Head, and then they just unload on him, to the point where he barely can't even move. But he takes a couple of them out, creates a big explosion, flies away with these two characters, and they're actually presumed dead. But actually, we find out later on in the episode that they are fine, and I'm not sure if that's because of him maybe healing them in midair when it happened, or maybe their actual gunshot wounds were not fatal, but that's pretty surprising considering how many times they got lit up by these police. So, now Hiro Shishigami has made a declaration to find all of these police officers who were involved with this raid, and he finds them all at the police station. And he just casually walks in and just starts massacring all of them. This scene is very disturbing for how cold and calculating he is during this moment, and frankly, it just paints him as like the ultimate supervillain of the series. There's no going back anymore. He has had way too many chances to actually going back to being a normal member of society, but no, this is it. There's no turning back for his character now. And I like how throughout the episode they actually build up some of the cops. Like, there's this one scene in the middle of the episode where you see them all just sort of hanging out at this restaurant, just drinking beer and eating freaking pot stickers. And I was like, what is the point of this scene? Like, where is this really leading? And we don't get to go into their backstories or anything, but it did make me appreciate that scene where they also started getting massacred at the end. And they're all, like, killed except for one. There's one guy that he decides to leave, and that's because he basically wants to prove a point to him that nothing's going to be able to stop him. He's going to be able to crush all of the police, and it's a very scary declaration. He then walks outside to see this massive SWAT team, just everybody, like, with riot shields and massive heat lamps coming down, dudes with guns all over the place. There's no way he's going to escape. But then he just comes in, his back opens up, and he just destroys all of them in a scene that just is so messed up. Just completely cripples and destroys all of them. No one can escape. They try to run away. Not gonna happen. And what's really disturbing about this scene and just showing like how inhuman he is at this point is that he runs out of energy, collapses down on top of a car, and these cops are just waiting for him to wake up. And as soon as they get up, they just unload on him. He just kills them and goes back to his normal thing. And it looks like the water actually sort of resuscitated him, as if almost the water is like sort of a power source for these super extraterrestrial cyborg people. But still, that scene right there was just really intense, especially how the guy that he left alive is like, that's enough, you got us back, there's nothing more that you can do. And then he just basically tells him outright, no, I'm pretty much going to kill everyone and no one's going to stand in my way. The scene was also disturbing because Ichiro could have stopped him. He could have potentially showed up and tried to stop this whole thing from going down, but this was all being broadcasted, so the world would have seen it as well, so he was afraid that maybe his identity would be seen, not to mention, you know, his family would freak out when they saw him transform into a cyborg or something, but eventually there's got to be that moment where Ichiro has to realize that he's going to have to give up his secret in order for the betterment of mankind, in order to save them, and that's going to lead to a lot of really great drama in the series, and I cannot wait to see it, especially now that Shishigami has evolved from being a petty criminal to a serial killer to an outright international criminal. It's insane watching it happen over the course of the last couple episodes, but I have to say, it's been one heck of a ride. So, what's the rundown on this week's episode of Inuyashiki? You knew it was going to go totally bad when that one sniper shot him in the head and it didn't really do anything. Little by little, he was just taking them all out, too. Like, he would get pummeled, he'd get knocked out, and then he'd just kill more. He's a non-stop killing machine. There's nothing they can do to even restrain him. That whole scene of him going into the police precinct was so freaking messed up. I've seen a lot of scenes like that in movies and anime, and like I said at the beginning of the review, it kind of reminds me of the scene of Terminator, with him walking in and just coldly and calculating, taking everyone out, boom, boom, boom. It's an insane scene. I really liked it. It's definitely one of the highlights of this episode, but more than that, I really did appreciate the scenes with Ichiro's daughter. It's obvious they were going to do something with her character, with how prominently she's been placed, and the fact that she's in the freaking intro of the show, like, practically naked, which, by anime logic, means something really important about this character. That's just the way that it goes. But I can't wait to see how she's eventually going to out her father, or, you know, how he's actually going to reveal himself to the family as well. I'd say with how crazy things are getting, and how Hiro is just not even worrying about being seen anymore by anyone, that eventually Ichiro is just going to have to get involved, and it's going to end up turning into this massive global conflict of just craziness. Not to mention, there's this whole other plot element about a giant meteor which is getting ready to slam into the earth, because why the hell not? I have a feeling this is going to somehow play into both Hiro and Ichiro having to do something with this meteorite. I don't know. Maybe Ichiro will be able to destroy it or something and reveal himself to the world that way. That would be pretty freaking awesome. But man, what a random element to just throw in. And because it's such a massive global conflict kind of thing, like, everybody just completely forgets about Hiro Shishigami. But then by the end of the episode, that stuff happens. So Earth is, like, screwed from, like, so many directions with this killer cyborg and a massive meteor that's going to kill them all. One that's, like, so big, it's bigger than the one that originally basically killed the dinosaurs, so to speak. So, crazy episode, just like the rest of the series. Not a perfect episode. While Inuyashiki does look pretty good most of the time, there are just some scenes that frankly don't look that great in terms of the artwork and some of the animation, which at times can be a little stiff. It didn't completely ruin this episode, however, or even some of the impact behind it, which is why I'm going to give this one a 4 out of 5. Check it out, guys, and I'd love to hear your thoughts about this episode. You can tell me all of them in the comments section below, and what you're hoping to see from the next big episode of Inuyashiki. Inuyashiki. Thank you guys for watching. Make sure to subscribe to the channel for more Inuyashiki reviews, not to mention a ton of other anime and manga videos that I work on. You guys could also like the video. I'd appreciate it. I'll see you guys next time. And as always, stay down there, baby.